welcome to the Healing Station. I'm your host, Dr. Red, and we are going to be starting our series on heart conditions. And I'm so excited. And I'm here with the one, the only Queen Sylvia Speaks. Go ahead. Say hi
Hey,
to the people. Go ahead, girl. Go ahead. My
hey
bad.
everybody. What's going on? So glad to be here. And just I'm excited to get this started because I got feels. I'm sure y'all got feels. Some of y'all don't even know y'all got feels. So we just gonna get these heart conditions together and ready.
And ready. So, let's start this conversation. Where do we start? I guess for me, I want to start with talking about emotions versus feelings because I know we use that term interchangeably, like this is my emotions, this is my feelings, but there is a distinction between the two, and I think we don't normally talk about that or even realize that there is a distinction of emotions and feelings. And yes, they're very related, but they are distinct. So I know for me, thinking about emotions, I always think emotions as in motion in a way where emotions are something that is on outwardly expressed and it's universal in the sense that when you see an emotion being expressed on the outside, it doesn't matter what language the person speaks or what culture they come from, we are able to interpret it. So, an example of that would be, let's say you're in a different country, you're seeing some people argue outside, they're speaking a whole different language, but you can see that grimace on their face, you can tell like that expression and that emotion that they're feeling in that moment is anger. And so that is how emotions are universal and expressed in motion, while with feelings it's more so an internal feeling and really speaks to your own experience. And a good example of that would be you seeing a dog versus me seeing a dog could evoke a different feeling. So, like, I'm a dog lover. Let's say I see a dog, I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, look at the puppy. And let's say I'm not saying you're actually scared of dogs, but let's say you're afraid of dogs. And so, when you see that dog, it evokes this feeling of fear, like, oh no. So, being that feelings are more personal, more internal. So, that's how I see them. What are your thoughts on emotions and feelings?
Yeah, so and that's really good. And so thinking about it, right, you can think so the whole dog situation, if I see a dog and I am feeling angst or I'm feeling anxiety, the emotion from that is my heart is beating. You see me sweating, right? Type of thing. Like being able to understand emotion is like a chemical release. So it doesn't last long. It lasts, I think it says it lasts like 6 seconds or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. But when you see somebody sweating or you see somebody crying, maybe that is the release of the emotion versus the feeling. That's why people say you can't tell me how I
How I
feel.
feel, because you can't see
You
it. It's
can't, it's
internal.
how I
It's
feel
internal.
because it's internal, it's inside of me. I'm feeling these ways, but what you can see is the emotion from it. So I
Right.
think that's really good. That's good because it took a long time for me to kind of understand what is the difference between the two. Like, um, you want some because you want somebody. I think when we say like you want somebody that's emotionally intellectual, I wonder if we should almost say we want somebody that can feel intellectually, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make any sense what I'm trying to say? I don't know.
It does make sense where you're like really being able, I guess, discerning in their feelings, being able to like really be emotionally and feeling. Trying to see what the word would be for that. I get what you're saying, and I'm trying to see how to say
Yeah,
that in English words, but I do understand what you're saying.
yeah. That's good. And I thinking about this book, right? The Voice of the Heart, because a lot of times like we go throughout this world and society has really, caused us to be in a space of like the only feeling you can express is anger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the only feeling you can express is joy. And if it's not, or happiness, if it's not one of the two, then you don't have none. You need to suppress it. You need to all of those things like that. But reading through this book, which is called The Voice of the Heart, A Call to Full Living by Chip Dodd,
Mm-hmm.
and it
One of
says
my
Discover the
favorites.
Gift of Eight Feelings. It's a really, really good book, you all. And it talks about how we being emotional and spiritual beings, we're designed for relationships. And we have to get to a space where we can either be operating out of survival, which is never fully knowing ourselves and others, and or finding an abundant life, and we spend an existence toiling, trying to make life happen, which leads us to the grave, right? The more we suppress what we feel, the more we suppress what we're going through, the more we don't take the time to understand what are the needs of our heart, what are the
Mhm.
longings, what are the desires of our hearts, what is the connection that we need to do, right? The more we spend that time suppressing it or not acknowledging it, dismissing it, and you walking around with all this pride, that's anger, right? That's anger suppressed. Or, the people who are depressed. I never realized that that's also anger that just
Mhm.
was perverted inwardly versus
Yeah.
pride, which is anger, is perverted outwardly. Like, and it's so you never realize what that, or you can live in a full life, right? A full life, which is allowing yourself to go through all of these ups and downs, all of the trials and tribulations, acknowledging that you have grief, acknowledging that you have some fear, acknowledging that you have anxiety and all of these different things. You have some shame, all of these things, but then also along the way, discovering what is the need that I need from these, what is my heart trying to tell me, basically,
Mhm.
that will lead me to get this need met, to get this longing met, to get this desire met or fulfilled type of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I think.
No, that definitely makes sense. And definitely The Voice of the Heart is one of my favorite books. And it's definitely so helpful. I know in my practice, working with clients who need to really start seeing feelings in particular, and emotions as a gift. Because a lot of times we feel like it's the enemy, and we've been taught, like, don't be emotional, or,
Yeah,
don't lead with your emotions and all of this. And there is some wisdom in not, be acting out on all the emotions and feelings that we feel. Because, of course, if we did, we'll be impulsive people that wouldn't be able to be in healthy relationships. At the same time, it is important to acknowledge, know what the needs are that need to be met, and what are these feelings, what is the gift that these feelings are inviting us into, what is this invitation that is giving us, like, it makes me think of sadness, which I know a lot of people don't like sadness and grief in particular,
yeah,
but we all deal with grief of some sort. It's not just about death with grief, but it's like, like how you felt about a certain thing, or the plans that you had, it didn't. How many of us have had plans that didn't go as planned? Like, happens all the time. And so there's grief that takes place, there's sadness, there's loss, if you will, that takes place. And that sadness is inviting you into healing, inviting you into acknowledging, this is what I wanted, I didn't get it, and I can still heal through that, and I can be grateful and feel joy in what is available now. What do I have at this point? And, have gratitude for that as well. And so as I think about what you were saying, I'm just like, okay, each one of these is offering and inviting me into a gift of, like, some type of release or
I'll say this. I think too, like, I think that like, I'm glad you said that seeing gifts, seeing feelings and emotions, and really also senses as well as a gift, right? Like, a lot of times, like, because society has made us, or the enemy or whatever, we've been through life so much, we've been through
mm-hmm,
trials. Anything other than, like I said, happiness or anger is not accepted, right? But like, really, like somebody like me who is super sensitive, right? But I grew up hearing it's not the deep, you're too sensitive, you know, move past all your feelings, all of those things like that. But like, it wasn't until I was today years old when I discovered, like, oh, like, these are actually gifts from God, and God has emotions too. And I don't think
mm,
too, like, we understand like how much detail and intentionality the Lord put in making our bodies and creating us, right?
yeah,
He literally created us to feel, to this is how we live a full life, right? And I don't think people, there's so many emotions and feelings and different ways the Lord uses senses throughout the Bible. You can see it literally biblically. I want to read a scripture,
mm-hmm,
Ezekiel 36, starting at verse 25, which says, I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will cleanse you from all your impurities and from all of your idols. I will
Mm.
give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit in you and move you to follow my decrees and be careful to keep my laws. And so I love that scripture because a lot of us, we can get to a space when we're not acknowledging what is happening inside of our heart, what affected us, what afflicted us, when we experience these wounds, or even just good things too as well. But when we're not acknowledging it, we can get to a space where we're having an impaired way of living, right? And there can be some healthy fear, right? God created us to have fear of the Lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the beginning of wisdom.
Wisdom.
Or
Yeah.
fear kind of in a sense of, if I do see a dog or I see a big bear, right? That triggers the bear, or that fear should trigger to say, hey, we need to be wise. We
Get out of
probably
here.
need to run from this instead of
Yes.
go towards it, right? Type of thing. So there's some healthiness to things. A lot of people are like, don't feel fear. The Lord didn't give us the spirit of fear and da da da. Yes, we should not be afraid or live in the bondage of the spirit of fear. But there is a healthy sense of it. Or even, I think the book also talks about shame, how shame literally in a healthy way, it can remind us that we need to be humble and that we need help, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that we're limited beings, right? So those things like that, I think about that, like how we can go through life and have such this impaired way of living with our emotions, with our feelings, with our senses. But here God is saying, I will literally give you a heart of flesh, a heart where you can feel things, right? Like you said, like people don't like to go through grief or sadness, or anger, and people are afraid of these feelings and these emotions that they are experiencing, and so they suppress it. But literally, the Lord is like, I created you to feel. I
Mm-hmm.
created you to live them out. But the thing is, they have to be in a space where we allow them to be processed with the Lord.
Which is really huge, which is a big part of it. And it makes me think when I think about, and I want to get back to processing feelings with the Lord, but before we go into that, uh, as you were talking, it made me think of why are people afraid to feel? Like, why are we afraid to just sit in feelings and allow them to come and
Yeah.
allow? Because, like you said, emotions are. I think of emotions like they're temporary, so it's like a wave. So they're gonna go up. You're gonna
Mhm.
feel that rise, and then you're gonna get to the peak, and it's gonna crash just like a wave.
Yeah.
And why do when we're going up on that wave, a lot of us like, let's stop it before we even get to the peak and
Yeah.
get to the other part of it, not realizing that doing that can prolong, basically, prolong that process of allowing you to go through it if you're trying to avoid and
Yeah.
go around. And I know sometimes as I talk to clients, part of that fear, and even for myself, because I too were not trying to feel at one point in my life, um, is that we're afraid to be overcome in those emotions. Like, oh, if I give into this sadness, I'm gonna be permanently depressed because it's so
Yeah.
heavy. Like, whatever happened to you is so heavy, and so you're thinking, if I actually feel this, I'm not gonna be able to move, my body's gonna be fully shut down, I'm not gonna. And especially those of us who have a lot of responsibilities, moms, you got to go to work, whatever the case may be. You're like, no, I can't afford to feel my feelings because I'm gonna shut down, and that's not true.
Yeah.
And I think that really makes people afraid. And I know in my own therapy, learning about the duality in emotions and how you can feel both the feelings as you're going through grief, for example, as you're going through that sadness, like you're going toward it, you're allowing yourself to feel it, but you can feel that simultaneously while feeling joy, while being able to
Yeah.
feel
What can be
thankfulness.
true?
And so
Yeah.
that is another piece of, if you allow yourself to live fully, if you allow yourself to sit in feelings, you now open up the possibility and how we have the capacity, whether you realize it or not, to feel more than one emotion. And so you can feel the sadness and you can feel the joy, where it's like, yes, I can be grieving this loss, at the same time I can see the goodness of God and the joy that is happening, however you are in that moment,
Yeah. That's
being
good.
able to conceptualize whatever has taken place, however you're processing it. And so to me, when we suppress our feelings, we close the door to being able to heal through things, to be able to
Yeah.
really experience joy, because joy is not circumstantial. And so, in order to really experience it, we have to allow ourselves to feel whatever we're going to a lot of times deem as the negative emotions, which is the sadness, the
Yeah.
anger, and the fear. So those are the three that most of the time we want to avoid. But if we avoid those three, then we're not able to feel their I call them their partner feelings, which is like the feeling of joy, the feeling of being powerful, and the feeling of peace. Because if I never have felt the feeling of fear and anxiety, how do I know what peace feels like? Because it's
Mm.
like the opposite, right? And if I,
That's
yeah,
so good.
because in order to feel its sister or its
Yeah.
opposite, you have to feel the other one. And so, in the moments when I'm feeling that, that anger, for example, then how will I ever feel like what it means to be powerful if I don't feel the anger? Because usually anger comes from that feeling of oppression or something's not fair. Like in that moment, you feel like subordinate to something, like something has happened that's unfair, oppressive, those type of things. And so
Yeah, because
that
it speaks
feeling.
to the passion in life that we have.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so we need anger in order to feel the power that's needed to do activism or to advocate for yourself or other people, right? So we need that.
Yeah.
And so it
That's
makes me
good.
think of that. And the same thing with sadness, and so that sadness, that deep sorrow, how will you feel joy if you don't know
Mm.
what the deep sorrow feels like? And so this is why it is so important to allow the waves of our emotions to come. This is why it is so important to feel, acknowledge, and understand your feelings.
Yeah, that's really good. And something that the this book says, and then the voice of the heart, it says heart pains and heart problems require heart solutions, not intellect, willpower, or morality. We first need to feel what we are feeling to awaken our spiritual root system. Second, we tell the truth and acknowledge what is happening within us. And thirdly, live out our rediscovered freedom and release control. Like, and I think that
Absolutely.
so speaks to like what you're saying. Like we try to just kind of keep moving through life and like, oh, I don't want to feel sadness, I don't want to, but you're completely acknowledging a part of your life that can help and strengthen, embody, empower, lead you to what is needed and necessary. And
Mm-hmm.
it's making me think about Proverbs 23, which says, so above all, guard the affections of your heart, for they affect all that you are. Pay attention to the welfare of your innermost being. Do y'all
Yes.
hear that? For from there flows the well springs of life. So,
Yep.
literally, what you are needing is in these feelings that you're experiencing, right? Our feelings, our emotions is just an alert system of like, hey, we're feeling lonely. So, what should we do about that? Now, okay, when we live in impaired, sometimes we lead into ways like we can get into addiction and we can get into things that are
Mm-hmm.
not healthy for us,
Mm-hmm.
and we're fulfilling those needs in a very perverse way, which is why we need Jesus to be able to keep us in a space where we're constantly surrendering and consecrating our feelings unto God, right? Like, hey, Lord, I am feeling this. I feel this sorrow. I feel this grief. What am I supposed to do with this?
Do with this.
Where is your goodness in this? What, all of those things like that. And in
Absolutely.
that way, then we can get to a space where the Lord gives us the desires of our heart, right? Because now
Mm-hmm.
we've consecrated our heart, we've consecrated our feelings unto the Lord. And so now it can be, even though we go through these different emotions, different feelings, right? Now God can trust us because our heart has been given unto Him. It's been made new by Him, and He will
Mm-hmm.
then give us the desires of our heart, right? Like,
Absolutely.
and I think too, you see all throughout the Bible, feelings run so deep. I don't think people realize like you can literally have a gifting to be a feeler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Lord connects with you and talk with you through your feelings. I don't think people realize God has feelings and emotions.
No.
God has so many feelings and emotions. It literally says, I rejoice over you with singing. Come
Mm-hmm.
on. It literally says Jesus wept. He was moved with compassion, right? And
Mm-hmm.
he wept. That's the emotion, the weeping, and the compassion is
Mm-hmm.
what he was feeling on somebody. So it's like, be fully who God has created you to be. Men and women. Men too. You hear?
Yes.
Men. We need y'all to
Yes. This
feel,
is for you
okay?
too.
We need you to
Absolutely.
feel. We need you to
Absolutely.
feel.
Absolutely. And as you were talking about that alert system, it makes me think of the emotional alarm system. So, seeing our emotions as an alarm system that you would say have at your house, and how with that alarm system, we know that it allows us to know who belongs, because those who belong in the house, like, they have the code. Like, they know the code of it, and if anybody's coming in that doesn't belong, clearly it will alert that the back door is open, the front door is open, whatever is happening. And so I see our bodies as having an alarm system with our feelings, where it is alarming us, like, what is taking place, what is happening, who is friend, who is foe, who belongs, who doesn't. That's what our emotions are doing. And just like with the alarm system of your house, when it is faulty, if there's faulty wiring, you call the company to come fix it, right? So why, when things go faulty with us, and how our
Yeah.
alarm systems go off, our emotional alarm systems go off, is because the fallenness of this world has opened the door to trauma, right?
Yeah.
And with that trauma, we experience experiences that are negative experiences, that are hurtful experiences, that are painful experiences. We experience adversity and persecution and all of those things that we don't like, but are a part of our human experience here on earth in this fallen world. And because of that, it trips our alarm system. And then it puts it in the state of, like, okay, it's going off for everything now, because everyone that even looks like this person that hurt me, like, let's say you've been hurt by a man or a woman, then all women, all men, like, we kind of
Yeah.
overgeneralize, and we do that
Yeah.
because we're trying to protect ourselves. That is a
Yeah.
act of self-preservation. Like, anything that looks
Yeah.
like this pain must mean the pain is coming, and that's not necessarily
Yeah.
true. And so in those times, we need help. It's hard to put that, just like I don't know how to fix one of those alarm systems myself. I'm gonna have to call somebody to come fix it. Same thing when it comes to our emotions. Like, we need to call
Yeah.
somebody to help us come heal that. So that's when we call
Yeah.
on God first and foremost, and that's when we call on therapists, those who are
Yeah.
equipped in that way. That's when we call on our friends, iron sharpening iron. Like, that's when we call on these people to help us to heal through these things, to
Yeah.
turn back on our alarm system so that we're able to discern. So that's what
That's
made
really
me think as you were
good. That's
talking
so
about that.
good. And I'm also reading, or I have read, this book called The Filler
Mm,
by James W. Gall. It says, Discovering How Sensitivity Helps You Discern and Act on God's Voice. And so, something from a passage from this book, it says, As human beings, we are made in the image and likeness of God. We have
mm,
been created as emotional beings because that is the way He is. Our emotions are lively and vigorous activity of the mind and not a separate function. Our emotions have an impact upon our bodies, our level of holiness, relationships, and decisions, and how we handle them determines our true emotional health. Human hearts can be hardened and softened towards the things of God. What are the things of God? Relationship. What are the things
mm-hmm,
of God? Community. What are the things of God? Being able to be resourceful, being able to multiply, like all of those things like that. Like, so if we have a hardened heart, going back to Ezekiel 36, what we read earlier, like if we have that hardened heart, we haven't taken the time to fix this alarm
mm-hmm.
system that is happening, and all these triggers are,
Yes.
y'all be, I'm triggered. And that's so good that you said that, because even too, like, literally not too long ago, came up for me is I was struggling with my relationship with God and
Mm,
seeing Him really truly as a provider, right? Like,
mm,
how we view other people is more than likely how our relationship is with God. And so I was really
absolutely.
struggling to see Him as a provider, because why? I've had a wound where I've experienced men, men in my family, men that I've maybe dated in the past or whatever,
Mm-hmm,
not providing, not coming through, having
mm,
empty promises, things like that. And so, like you said, it got to a point where I was like, all men are just, you know, trash. All men are
right.
this. But that's not
Yeah.
necessarily the truth. That was a
Mm-mm,
wound. That was a place where my heart was hardened in that
mm,
area. And so it had to get to a place where I had to submit that back unto God and
mm,
literally allow Him to shift my perspective on it and soften my heart towards it. It's not
mm,
all men. It's not. It's some. It can be some, but it's not all. And then also understanding these people are broken people too.
right.
So it's just literally like we just get so limited when we do have this hardened heart, and we're not taking that time to truly acknowledge what is going on the inside of us. What is happening?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It can disconnect you from connecting to others, disconnect you from just really connecting with yourself even too, I know so many times I've suffered in silence, feeling so
Mm-hmm.
many different types of ways. And then that has led me to having an impaired space or a way of living life, which is just not fun at all.
It's not. It's not freedom. It's not. And as you were talking about those triggers, I see triggers as invitations. It's like an invitation to
Yeah,
heal
that's
in that
good.
area of the heart. It's letting you know what's in your heart that needs fixing, because a lot of us are not aware until we're triggered. So that trigger is an
Yeah,
invitation,
yeah,
and we should see it that way instead of seeing it as like, oh, that means I avoid that. No, it means we need to go to God
yeah,
and ask him about it. And I know I talked about coming back to processing emotions with God, and I know we kind of talked about it throughout, and I want to come back to that. And kind of as I think about processing emotions with God, what does that look like? Like, what has
hmm
that been like for you?
It has been a journey. Like I said, just recently, that whole thing came up of me realizing that I had a lot of anger and bitterness towards just
Mm-hmm.
men generationally, like not one specific, just overall a blanket. And I was so angry. I was angry that I was angry, you know? And so it's really like, it can be scary sometimes, especially when you've been told so much in your life that your feelings don't
Mm-hmm.
matter, right? And then you're trying
Yeah.
to like go to God and trying to process it with him. So it's like, let me share a little bit, but let me not, maybe not share so much, because
Mm-hmm.
if I share this big emotion that I have, I'm not gonna be able to handle it. And it's just this like give and take type of process. Is this really like it's a risk, and learning to find the fullness in that risk of like, okay, if I decide to share all of this with you, God, I'm trusting you to do something with it. And he does.
Yeah.
And he comes back and he comes back in such just affirming and reassuring way of,
Mm-hmm.
he's not intimidated by any emotion. He would rather you be in a space of like full on in anger, in rage, talking to God, like, I'm pissed at you, I'm mad at you, I'm upset with you. Why would you do this to me? Versus you coming to God and just, oh, you're so good, God. I just, woo, that's a lie. That's not
It's
in spirit
suppressing.
and
Yeah.
truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's suppressing it, right? He would rather
Mm-hmm.
you. He can handle your big emotions that you think you have. Why? Because he's bigger than all of that, and he
Yeah.
created you. He created all of those
Absolutely.
emotions. So it's really been this learning to trust process, and learning also that like whatever I'm feeling, he can redeem it, he can restore it, he can make it new, he can make it whole, he can make it complete. Um, it's a process. It's
It is a
definitely not as
process.
easy as you would think, especially when you're kind of first trying it, but it's definitely a process. What has that kind of been like for you in learning to process your emotions and feelings and senses with the Lord?
It has definitely been a process. I agree. A process of growing in faith, a process of growing in trust, and a process of learning God's character. So, those are the
Yeah,
things that come up because I didn't realize you can do this. Let's just say that. Like, I did not know that you could process your feelings with God. As I have worked with my own therapist who is a Christian, that was a part of my invitation. And then talking to my friends like yourself who were also going through that journey of learning that, hey, God can handle your feelings. And
yeah,
actually not just hearing that in like a church service or a sermon, but actually like practicing it. And so as I
yeah,
heard you all stories of how you would go, and I was like, oh, that sounds so sweet. Like God, like I'm like, I want to try that. And so I started to try it. Like I was like, okay, God, like I don't know how to do this. I ain't never did this before. But this is what I'm really feeling. I know you already know. I'm gonna give this to you. And I'm thinking, I don't know what I thought at the time. Like I didn't realize how starting this was gonna help. One, I didn't realize how I was seeing God in the light of those people who hurt me in my life. Like the times where my dad had disappointed me or anyone else in my life that has disappointed me and hurt me deeply. Like I was looking at God like that. And so that was a big reason
mm-hmm,
why I was afraid to go to him in my vulnerability because I was like, everybody else I tried this with, it didn't work out on this earth. So what you gonna do? Like, what is this gonna look like? And as I started, he really healed me in that area to really start seeing him how he really is and really learning his character, and then also help to heal me in those areas with those people on earth that hurt me, because I was able,
Yeah.
like I know you said earlier, I was able to see them how God sees them, as like human beings
Yeah.
who
That's
too
good.
struggle with things and who too unfortunately didn't have the resources to go and get healed for these things. And it helped me have more compassion for these individuals. It didn't excuse them for what they did, like at all. That's not what I'm saying. But it did help me have more compassion, so that I was able to heal through that and not just hold on to bitterness or resentment in that area. And I was just able to see what a good father really is, like really, like, because
Yeah.
God being the good father, like I really learned what that was like to be loved by the father and what that means. And so just learning that and really trusting, like, okay, God, you really are good. I know we hear that a lot in church and all the time, but it's just like really taking what I knew with my head based on what I've heard and moving that to my heart was a whole different thing. And as I
Yeah.
really was able to have faith, and that's where the faith comes in, having faith in what I say I believe, having faith in what I was understanding, and as God was revealing himself to me, having faith that these things is true, like, and the foundation of him being good is really what opened the door to put the walls down and really be vulnerable
Yeah.
with God and really come to him with all of me. And I found that as I trusted him with all of me, it became easier to trust people with all of me. And yes, I
Mm.
still use discernment and wisdom. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't use suspicion and fear. There's a difference. And so I'm
Yeah.
able to
That's
do
good.
that because ultimately I trust God. I trust God with me. That's what allows me to be vulnerable and transparent and honest with people about who I am and to come to a room and be fully Rashida. It's because I trust God with
Yeah.
me. And no matter what,
Yeah.
like he has my back. If you hurt me, that sucks. And me and him gonna have to process that. And my therapist too. We gonna have to process that. However, I trust him through that process. And how I did is I started to trust him with the little things, and I grew and I grew and I grew. And I got to this
Yeah.
space here. And it's necessary because I feel like as we do that, not only are we able to heal, but the people around us will they'll
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
standing up and getting healed too. And you're able to be a part of that and to invite people into that process. You're able to evangelize at that point because you're
Yeah.
open to doing that, because ultimately you trust God and you exuberate that like that. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
she different. What you got, Jesus? You want some? Like that's
You want
that's what
some?
it's
You
like.
want some
You
of
want
this?
some? Taste and see, because the Lord is
Taste
good.
and see
Um,
that the Lord is good. Look, that's our senses right there.
mhm,
Look,
it
and I think
is.
that's so good too. And I think practically, right? Like, kind of what does that look like? I'll give an example of like I remember when I was having all these when I was first really starting to trying to try this Jesus thing again. And I remember like writing. I sometimes I would write to the Lord. I didn't, and this blew my mind. I didn't even know the Lord would respond just off of you writing, like literally a journal
Yes.
prompt. And so I remember writing in my little journal, my little diary, whatever you want to call it, and literally like telling the Lord, like, Lord, I am terrified of, going deeper with you. I'm terrified of telling you about all my emotions and my
Mm.
feelings, all of the things, all of my worries. I literally just tried it, y'all. I just tried it. And quite literally, and I just love this so much because he ended up responding to me um, with this verse, and I'll just never forget it. Because I was like, in the past, like people have left and people haven't fully accepted all of my emotions and this, that, and the other. And so something that the Lord gave me, and I just thought it was just mind blowing to me, um, which was starting at Isaiah 40, verse
Mm.
21. So after I wrote all of this, y'all, to him, pouring out my heart, okay, because it was sincere, and that's what he's looking for. He's just looking for your heart and heart that you give to him so he can make it a heart of flesh, right? And so Isaiah 40, starting at verse 21, which says, Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understood since the earth was founded? He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshopper. He stretches out heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent of living. He brings peace princes to naught and reduces the rulers of the world to nothing. No sooner are they planted, no sooner are they sown, no sooner do they take root in the ground, than he blows on them and they wither, and a whirlwind sweeps them away like chaff. To whom will you compare me, or who is my equal? Says the Holy One. Lift up your eyes and look to the heaven, who created all these. He who brings out the starry hosts one by one, calls forth each one of them by name, because of his great power and mighty strength. Not one of them is missing. Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord? My cause is disregarded by my God. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is an everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary,
Mm-hmm.
and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not get weary. They will walk and not faint. And to me, that whole thing that he gave me, it was just like, whoa, like him telling me, like, I won't get weary of you. I won't get
Mm-hmm.
tired of you. Do you not know that I'm God? Oh, I got you. I got your feelings. I got your emotions. And it just,
Everything.
that like,
Mm-hmm.
it just opened me up, and that caused me to be able to trust more, right? That caused me to
Mm-hmm.
trust him with another feeling and another emotion type of thing. And so that's kind of what it would look like, kind of practically, right? Like, I know sometimes people are like, okay, yeah, I hear you, but like, what does that look like practically? Just being fully transparent with the Lord. What is it that
Yeah.
you're feeling? What is it that you're going through? No matter how good, how bad, how in between it is, give it to the Lord and be in expectation for Him to respond to you. And see what that does. See what that
Amen.
does. See how that
Yeah.
sets things anew for you, afresh for you. So, yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I love how this process really does confirm, affirm, and grow you in faith. And really help you
Yeah.
learn who God really is, his character, not just head knowledge, but actual heart knowledge, like really rooted
Yeah.
in you. I love that. I love that journey. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, this has been good. I'm excited to start this series, and just breaking through different feelings and kind of just seeing how we can navigate through them and how they can be
Mm-hmm.
healthy and how they can be unhealthy when we don't seek the right help for it.
Yeah, because that
So
happens.
I'm excited.
I'm so excited and I'm so thankful to be on this journey with you. So, thank you for agreeing to this. And thank you to all who are listening right now and who will be listening in the future. So excited for you because this is definitely the start of your journey of healing through your emotions. And we're just
Yeah.
happy to be a small part of that. And so, it is our prayer that you just take this invitation to start processing your feelings and your emotions with God. And He's inviting you. He is ready and He's able and He's bigger than anything. And Willie will help you overcome. So I'm just excited about that. And so catch us next time. We'll be doing this every other Thursday. So you will be able to catch us next time as we go deeper into the heart condition series. We love you. Let's heal together. Bye.